Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for your patience. So we're going to get started right now with the Paragon live raid. So can we please hear some noise for the guys from Paragon? So those of you who were here yesterday would know that Paragon managed to make it through the Bastion of Twilight Heroic, actually downing Sinestro as well, one shot, and also went through the Throne of the Four Winds. That means there's one dungeon worth seeing, and that's going to be Blackwing Descent. And that's going to be what we're going to be doing today. 6 bosses in total. I believe the average clear time for you guys is about an hour or so.
Yeah, something like that. That should be it. If we don't wipe too much, we should be able to do this in approximately 1 hour.
Yep. Commentating once again with member of Paragon, Arcane Mage, and Master of Pressing number 2, Mr. Birdish. We'll get all flasked up and get started. So, BWD as a heroic, how would you say that it stands up against the other heroic raid content that's in Tier 11?
Well, the first bosses are fairly easy, I would say. But it does get more difficult, like the last boss here is actually, well, fairly difficult.
Yeah, you were saying to me last night that if you were to run into any problems, it was going to be on Heroic Nefarian today.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just, you can so easily wipe there. That's pretty much why, really.
Fairly stressful then. Starting off on the Omnitron defense system right here.
Yes, that's correct.
Yep, nice quick start on that one. So, Heroic Omnitron I've heard some very scary things about. Why exactly is it that this fight intimidates people?
Well, there's like 4 mobs, and you can get into some really bad combinations here when Nefarian is boosting like the abilities of these bosses, and that's basically what can cause you some real problems. You can get a Shadow Conductor at the same time as getting the AoE flame damage, and that's just huge rage damage. If you're looking at rage frames here, you're going to see that at many points, Raid is going to be taking huge damage in general.
Yeah, I'm noticing that Nefarian is being a little bit mischievous and takes out one of the elements from the normal mode, saying that you can't actually use the Toxitron's poison to damage the other robots anymore. Make a short word of our Canatron by the looks of it. Are there any other abilities that people
shooting
should
down
know
right
about
now.
This one?
On our Canatron.
Or on any of them, really, in terms of in comparison to normal mode?
It's just that Nefarian is empowering some of the abilities that they do. Like it says now on my screen, next ability buff in 6 seconds. That's where something actually happens, and yeah.
I like the little flavor text going on right there. It's absolutely fantastic. They actually added Nefarian in there, which is kind of cool, really, because those of you who were back all the way in vanilla knew that Nefarian, in fact, more Victor Nefarians like to take the piss out of you an awful lot in Upper Blackwing player.
Like the whole idea of the heroic modes and whole Blackwing Descent is that Nefarian is giving them like extra powers. That's what makes them heroic mode on top of the additional numbers like more HP and more damage done.
It's always nice to see a little bit of silly lore justification for what's going on, as opposed to sort of previous dungeons we've seen where it's just harder because it's heroic mode.
Yeah, I do agree. Now it's Shadow Conductor in the raid. Now at the same time there could be some other massive AoE damage coming out, and that would be quite difficult to heal out, especially at the start.
Going down 33%. 1%.
Yeah, this is going good. There's bombs coming out as well. They being AoE'd. Toxitron.
We say that due to the sheer number of AoE abilities and things on the ground, this is a significantly harder fight than 25-man though.
I don't know really if this is really harder than 25-man. The first kill of this was made in 10-man. So maybe that is the case.
Needless to say, there's an awful lot that you need to dodge right there. Canatron going down 20%. DPS looking pretty good on all fronts by the looks of it.
Yep.
Raid's barely taking any damage, I'm actually noticing at the moment.
Yeah, it's easy at this point.
There's the switch over. DPS on Electron right here, 12%, falling rapidly.
Yeah. A few people died in a raid now.
Shouldn't be too much of a problem though.
No. It's looking all good right now.
Quite curious actually that you decided to start with Omnitron defense system when there are other bosses in BWD that are considered significantly easier. It's just a case of complete confidence with this boss.
Well, I don't know. We practiced this quite a lot on the PTR, so we felt like this was one of the first for us to do.
There we go, folks. Omnitron defense system. A good start. Actually, fairly tricky start. So one of those bosses in heroic mode that really hasn't been down all that much. I believe the two bosses in this dungeon that have been down the most are Magmaw and Chimaeron.
Yeah, Maloric's been down quite a bit as well. It's fairly easy encounter compared to this one. I mean, here it's easy to get someone killed if you miss an interrupt, if just something happens that you basically need to do. There's the damage meter from the previous fight. Arcane Mage is doing quite well, number 1, and Alt even number 4. Closing into 40k DPS.
Yeah, 40,000 DPS is fairly reasonable, I suppose. Arcade Mage obviously okay. Only a couple of trash packs. I recall reading on the forums actually that someone was very, very upset about the difficulty of raiding and was complaining that his guild spent 2 months trying to beat this trash on normal mode and couldn't get to the first boss.
If I'm totally honest, I think those guys should quit playing WoW.
I can't really disagree with that, honestly. I think that if they do balance the game around people like that, then we're not going to have a very fun game left.
No, we really won't.
Double trash packs, as you see, very, very difficult, incredibly hard. You have to tank them and then shoot them. Extremely challenging. Now, I suppose considering the amount that you actually farm this content, you count it as a blessing that the trash isn't actually harder on heroic mode.
Yeah, the thing is that we could just switch it to normal mode for the trash. As I said yesterday, it doesn't really give anything. If it would give actually something like heroic trash loot or something, we would definitely do it in a heroic mode and wouldn't really mind if it was more difficult, like if that would be the case. But right now it's not really giving anything, so there's absolutely no point.
Trash has always been a weird subject, I suppose, with everybody. There were complaints about the dungeons that didn't have trash, for instance, Tier 9 content with the Colosseum. People really, really didn't seem to appreciate that because it seemed lazy.
Really did like it myself that there was no trash. I think trash is just a serious waste of time when the bosses are what people only care about, so...
Yeah, it's understandable. Do you think there'll be a point where Blizzard just says, no, it's just not worth putting trash in the game anymore?
I don't know. I mean, they want people to play this game. They want us to use time in this, so I guess they're going to do everything to, you know, make that happen.
I have to wonder what their rationale behind having trash actually is. I mean, what kind of purpose does it serve other than to waste people's time and make the dungeon feel longer?
I don't know, really.
That's probably it, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
That's the exact purpose of it. It's filler content.
Well, I guess the idea is, you know, to just have something like some little monsters that you beat and then the boss. If there was only bosses, maybe it wouldn't be so interesting for some people. For me, personally, I would just like to have the bosses, really.
Yeah, I can understand that. For me, raiding is beating the bosses, so the trash doesn't really hold all that much interest to me. We can have a show of hands in the audience, actually. Is there anyone in the audience that actually likes trash? Yeah, I thought so.
Not many hands. I don't see many hands.
No, I don't see any hands. Maybe one. A little bit. There we go. Yeah, so about half a person. So there you go. If the DreamHack audience has anything to go by, then trash should be removed from dungeons.
I do agree.
Second boss coming up will be Magmaw.
Different on heroic mode on this encounter is he's spawning these big massive skeletons which also leave fire on the ground. Standing on fire is obviously bad and will cause you to die. And those skeletons need to be tanked and killed. And in the last phase there will be massive AoE raid damage. Nefarian is going to start shooting out stuff onto us.
Aside from that, it's pretty much the same as the normal mode though.
Yeah.
I take it these skeletons, the AoE raid damage can't be all that challenging if we've got such a high kill ratio on this particular boss.
This boss was nerfed
really?
fairly recently, and that's why it has become a lot easier and a lot more kills than previously.
What was holding people back? Was it just a general nerf in damage, or was it something specific?
I don't know, I think it's just generally a lot of raid damage. I look at raid frames right now, people are going down and there's nothing even especially happening here.
Well, there's an awful lot of random damage coming in. A lot of parasites, always very unpleasant.
Yeah, parasites are being attacked by a Death Knight. They're just being kited, we're not really doing anything to them.
For those of you who have not done this fight might not be aware of the mechanic, which involves ramming Magmaw's head down onto a spike and then doing damage.
Yep, that should be happening fairly soon. Next Mangle is coming in 26 seconds, and that's when he's going to pick up the tank, and people are going to be able to jump on him and nail his head onto the spike, and then we're going for some pretty serious damage.
You like big numbers, folks. You will be seeing them very shortly. I always find Magmaw to, just in the case of that mechanic, to find it to be very interesting. It's not necessarily a great mechanic in and of itself. I just find it awesome that they're making bosses that actually feel like bosses now, in comparison to, say, single-player games where special scripted events happen.
Now people are jumping on, and soon we're going to see set on the spike.
There's the chains, dragging him down.
Right there.
There you go.
Right there. We have Heroism debuff, so that's very, very unlucky. But the numbers are to be seen here.
165,000 crit by the looks of it. Big damage coming in right there. That's 166,000. He's going to be escaping this very, very shortly, and off he goes. That's pretty much the fight in a nutshell, with the exception of the later phase massive AoE damage.
Yeah, this is pretty much the fight all over now, and just when burst goes below 25%, he starts doing this massive shadow splash onto the raid, and that's where the healing is really needed. This is pretty much a cakewalk up until that point.
See how that turns out. Everything seems to be fine. Raid damage is not too high at the moment. 45% now on Magmaw. Doesn't tend to go down all that quickly until we get the head on the spike.
Yep. We just had Xenofix died there. Don't know how he died or how she died.
Oh dear. Well, that's embarrassing.
She could have been standing in the fire.
Not a good idea. Everybody makes mistakes. Xenofix back on her feet now. Chains on Magmaw, looking to drag him down, and there we go. New phase once again. See some nice big damage.
We have Heroism up now as well, or Bloodlust.
Massive spam. You see your mana plummeting like a rock right here.
There's some even bigger numbers than last time.
168,000 crit right there. Oh yes. Okay, Mage's blatantly OP in this encounter. Coming on, and the head's going back up.
It says phase 2, but we already went halfway into it.
So that's the big AoE raid damage that's coming down.
Yeah, I mean, look at raid frames.
Very Neil's inconceivable. You may actually defeat my lava worm. 7% going down right there. Very, very solid indeed. Sends up like a rocket, there you go. Nice and easy.
Yeah, this is really a lot easier than the previous boss that we killed, and to be honest, all of these bosses in here to upcome now, except Nefarian, are quite a cakewalk, I would say. Even we still have half alts in the raid, they should still be fairly easy. Now the hardest encounter in here, the elevator boss.
Yes.
Many people do die here.
Why is it that they insist on putting elevators in raids? I remember the elevator boss
Absolutely
in
no idea.
Serpent Shrine.
There's the damage meter from the previous fight.
So I'm breaking a good 45,000 DPS right
That
there.
looks like some AoE damage whoring right there on the little ads.
Well, everyone knows the damage meter equals skill, am I right?
Something like that. Someone's asking to post the head damage now because that is not really, that's sort of like what counts, the burn phase damage.
Yeah.
So I guess we're going to be seeing that soon as well.
Is this a common occurrence comparing damage in your raid, or is this just for the stream today?
No, people always do it. I mean, those who play DPS, they like to compete. There's not much for people in here. We killed this 100 times already, so competing on the damage is always really about. Now that's the damage meter from the head. Looks like I was the boss.
Ah, there you go. Okay, Mage Emperor, as I've said before. So while we're clearing some trash, I'd like to talk about the opening tiers of this particular content, the amount of time we've had to wait for the next one. So I think it's probably safe to say that the opening tiers of content were significantly better than that in Wrath.
I don't know. I personally didn't like this tire that much because of how much of it was just so much of non-stop raiding, since there was no gating or anything like that, and you could choose out of multiple bosses, so it was quite difficult to get world first on every single boss, which obviously we would have liked to do, but because we went on another boss. Nice. What just happened here?
Ouch.
This is gonna be
Make it run, leave.
this is gonna be something amazing, right?
Yeah.
That was our dear Guildmaster Satan touching the boss, I think. And here we go.
Well, it had to happen once, I guess.
I mean, that's what they wanted to. That's what people wanted to see when we were with Nordos Irradia earlier today on the stage. People wanted to see us wipe. That was not really a legit wipe though, because we hadn't actually started the encounter.
Oh yeah, so you claim. Release and run.
And yeah, this was the boss where we lost our world first as well. Maybe this is the reason.
Yeah, this is going to be your curse. And it's Chimaeron. It's not amazingly hard in comparison to the rest of the stuff.
No, it should be pretty simple. Can be very annoying though, because you can get this minus hit debuff whilst you're popping your cooldowns and going for the DPS, and that's not very nice.
Can't imagine it would be. So you were talking about gating. How would you have preferred that the first tier was set up?
Well, I would like there to actually be some sort of gating, or bosses where you wouldn't be able to choose which boss you go for, so that you need to go Omnitron first, then Magmaw, then Chimaeron and so on. Whereas right now you could just go for whatever boss you liked, and that's why multiple guilds got world first from multiple different bosses, because of this reason, really.
However, that's obviously from the perspective of a very, very bleeding-edge hardcore raiding guild. Do you think the lack of gating is actually beneficial for the raid community as a whole?
Maybe, because it is easier for people who don't maybe play as much as we do, or put as much effort into this game as we do. It is maybe easier for them to get started on the easier content if the early bosses of the tire are more difficult than the ones inside, such as Chimaeron, for example, is definitely easier than Omnitron defense system.
In that case, would you perhaps say that a reasonable compromise would be to just leave the gating off the normal modes and then put some kind of restriction into the heroic modes, whereby you had to kill the bosses in a certain order? That
would actually maybe be quite a good idea.
Yeah, even for maybe just the first few weeks until they're all killed for world first. I mean, it's always interesting, really, because Blizzard doesn't seem to officially recognize world firsts. They've never really. I don't remember the last time they posted on their website about it, for instance.
No, it's really only the community science stuff which are going for it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the raiding community as a whole cares about world first. MMO Champion, for instance, cares, and as do several of the other raid communities and forums, and of course the competition between the guilds. And I suppose it would help for you to explain to people why exactly Paragon finds world first as important as they do.
Well, we play in this game for competition, and if you want to compete, well, obviously you want to go for world first. I mean, you want to be the best. Isn't that what it's all about, really? At least that's solidly the reason why I'm playing this, to be number one.
It's fair enough, really. It's always odd because over the past few years, particularly since the WoW Arena stopped being broadcast at the MLG and various events, and it became extremely niche within the community, it seems like raiding almost has overtaken it in terms of the competitive side of the game. Even if it's not so much a spectator esport per se, but people do want to see world first kill videos.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, many of the end encounters are not seen by many people still. Like, it's only the minority of the players who still get to see that stuff. So that's probably why I can understand it.
Do you think that that's healthy for the game? I mean, do you think it's okay for people to not see the content, but to get excited about watching a better guild do it? Do you think that's reasonable?
Well, people do like watching ice hockey, people do like watching football, so why not watch this if they like it?
It's probably the best argument I've heard for it, honestly. It comes down to the fact that, you know, we can't play ice hockey on a professional level, but we can certainly watch it.
Exactly, and people like it.
It's an interesting thing. I can only imagine, actually, people that maybe subscribe to cable sports or Sky Sports, for instance, in the UK, complaining that they're not allowed to play professional football, even though they pay their $15 a month. Yeah. That would be kind of stupid. So, Chimaeron right now, what exactly is different about this particular boss in the heroic mode?
The fact that the boss hits the tanks during the feud, what we just saw, and the tanks take absolutely massive amount of damage there. It's really a lot more difficult to heal than a normal mode, and then also in the last phase, you are losing HP over time, and on normal mode that does not happen.
It's a massive amount of
so yeah, you just need to burn faster, and that's really it.
Very, very unpleasant stuff. It's not like there's actually any margin for error. That massive AoE taking everybody down to 1%. Why you look through it.
Yep, there's a priest bubble right there, reducing our damage and increasing healing on the raid. Last phase is starting at 21%. There's still some time to go until then, so we should be quite good. And the fact that the whole raid is low here doesn't mean that it's bad. Is supposed to be like that.
It's deliberately designed. So any of you that I suppose have done Baron Ashbury in the new Dead Mines, they will also know that you're supposed to go down to very low HP there. So it is a designed mechanic.
Yeah. We have this bot which is keeping us alive as long as we are not under 10k HP of any damage that comes.
That's the Biletron, isn't it?
Yeah.
Under 24%.
You can see the buff over here, Finkel's Mixture.
Ah, yes.
Damage taken whilst above 10,000 is reduced. After this Massacre, we're going to pop everything. We're going to just wait now to not nuke the boss. Massacre is coming. We're going to pop Bloodlust. We're going to pop Tranks and stuff to top raid. It's going to be Feud as well. Now we're going to start doing some burn. Right, people popping this stuff. Let's go for some serious damage now.
It's 108 right there, not bad. No, you're not getting. Are you getting any kind of damage boost on this?
No, this is regular. Damage. This is regular. Just popping images there to not be the first one to die.
Yep, that kind of thing does tend to pull thread. So do you tend to expect raid members, at least a couple of them, to be picked off in this phase just because of the sheer amount of damage you're running?
Yeah, some people will die here.
2% right here, looking like a nice, fairly clean kill.
Yep.
And there you go.
Maybe we get some loot. Yes, loot from me. Very good.
Oh, you actually needed something.
Yes, I did. This is my alt. This was one of the items I still was missing.
I'm interested, actually.
Only both tanks died, and a DPS warrior and a Death Knight.
Yeah, only both tanks. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
I'm actually quite curious. Obviously, since this is an alt run, you're just kneading and breeding. Do you continue to do that in your progress, or do you actually use DKP?
We do use DKP, and here we're just kneading and just sorting out later who really needs the items, because it will like make this faster.
Yeah.
Arch tried to ninja my boots, but he's nice, so he's giving them to me.
Damn him. It's interesting to see, actually, that there's been perhaps a bit of a move away from DKP. Just in general, DKP used to be the in thing for a very, very long time, and hardcore guilds still use it.
Yeah.
Is that just simply down to the amount of loot that's available?
I don't know, really. The guilds use different kind of methods to divide loot. Some people use loot council system, and some people use DKP. Some people use some sort of attendance thing. It's
suicide things, for instance.
I don't know. People just use what they have been using for the longest, and like for example, we have been using DKP for a long time, which suits us good. So
it seems to make sense. And we used DKP for the longest time, and there was always a bit of a stigma behind using DKP, but really, I don't know why that was. I think it's just the community every now and again decides that it thinks something is elitist or bad, and then it goes after it.
Yeah.
I recall when gear score was actually a popular thing.
Oh yeah.
People used to love gear score. Now they
now you can see your gear score right here.
There you go. They've replaced gear score with their kind of gear score.
Yeah. Now people are just asking what was the item level. I mean, what is your item level, and that's about it.
Yep.
There's damage wave hostage just a second ago. Let's see what it says. Arcane Mage top DPS by quite a bit. He must have been lucky as hell. That's all I can say. Because as you saw, I was pressing my buttons quite skillfully, and I was 10th on the damage.
I mean, you were actually pressing 2 an awful lot there. So.
No, that was a bit of an RNG. If you don't get any of these minus hit debuffs, you're going to be doing a massive DPS. If you get a lot of them, and especially when you're popping cooldowns, then you're going to get screwed.